Afghanistan and Pakistan, two neighbours sharing a volatile border, are once again locked in a dangerous cycle of violence. The recent Pakistani airstrikes inside Afghan territory, targeting alleged militant hideouts, have inflamed tensions and brought these historical rivals to the brink of a larger conflict. This latest episode is not an isolated incident, but rather the continuation of a long and troubled history marked by mistrust, interference and proxy wars. From the Soviet-Afghan War in the 1980s to the rise and return of the Taliban, both countries have been entangled in a complex web of geopolitical interests and ideological battles. Pakistan's support for the Afghan Taliban, driven by its desire for strategic depth against India, has come at a heavy cost, fueling instability and militancy in the region. The Durand Line, the disputed border drawn by the British in 1893, remains a source of contention, further complicating the bilateral relationship. The porous border, rife with smuggling routes and militant sanctuaries, has become a breeding ground for various armed groups, including the Taliban Pakistan, or TTP, which has claimed responsibility for numerous attacks inside Pakistan. This volatile mix of historical grievances, strategic rivalries, and the resurgence of the Taliban has created a dangerous tinderbox in the heart of South Asia. The international community, already grappling with multiple crises, can ill afford another major conflict. A peaceful resolution, though elusive, remains the only viable path forward. Ignoring the underlying issues and resorting to military solutions will only exacerbate the situation and push the region further into chaos. Pakistan's relationship with Afghanistan has long been shaped by its quest for strategic depth, a military doctrine aimed at countering the perceived threat from its larger neighbour India. The idea was to create a friendly buffer state in Afghanistan that could provide Pakistan with strategic leverage and territorial depth in the event of a war with India. This doctrine led Pakistan to support the Afghan Mujahideen against the Soviet Union in the 1980s and later back the Taliban regime in the 1990s. However, this pursuit of strategic depth has backfired spectacularly. Instead of a pliant ally, Pakistan has found itself grappling with an increasingly assertive and independent Taliban government in Kabul. The Taliban's return to power in 2021, facilitated in part by Pakistan's support, has not brought the stability and influence Islamabad had hoped for. The Afghan Taliban, while ideologically aligned with the Pakistani state, has its own nationalist agenda and is determined to assert its autonomy. The presence of the TTP, which operates from safe havens inside Afghanistan, has further complicated matters for Pakistan. The TTP, with its close ties to the Afghan Taliban, poses a direct threat to Pakistani security and has stepped up attacks within Pakistan's borders. This has put Pakistan in a bind, forcing it to confront a group it once considered an asset in its regional power play. The changing dynamics in Afghanistan, coupled with the resurgence of the TTP, have exposed the flaws in Pakistan's strategic depth doctrine. The gamble has not paid off, leaving Pakistan more vulnerable and facing a more volatile neighbourhood. The recent Pakistani airstrikes in eastern Afghanistan, which reportedly killed dozens of civilians, including women and children, have marked a dangerous escalation in the already tense relationship between the two countries. The airstrikes conducted in late December 2024 were ostensibly aimed at TTP hideouts in the region. Pakistan accuses the Afghan Taliban of harbouring and supporting the TTP, which has been blamed for a series of deadly attacks inside Pakistan, including an assault on a security post in South Waziristan that killed 16 Pakistani soldiers. The Afghan government, however, vehemently denies these accusations and condemns the airstrikes as a violation of its sovereignty. The Taliban authorities claim that the strikes targeted civilians and have warned of dire consequences if such aggression continues. The incident has sparked outrage in Afghanistan, with protests erupting in Kabul and other cities condemning Pakistan's actions. The airstrikes and the subsequent retaliatory attacks by the Afghan Taliban underscore the fragility of the situation. Both sides seem locked in a dangerous cycle of escalation, with neither willing to back down. This tit-for-tat violence only deepens the mistrust and animosity, making it even more difficult to find a peaceful resolution. The international community has expressed grave concern over the escalating violence and called for restraint from both sides. However, without a concerted diplomatic effort to address the root causes of the conflict, the situation is likely to deteriorate further, with potentially devastating consequences for the region. The escalating tensions between Afghanistan and Pakistan have sent shockwaves through the region, with potential ramifications for China's ambitious Belt and Road Initiative, particularly the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC. The CPEC, a flagship project of the BRI, aims to connect Western China to the Arabian Sea through a network of roads, railways and pipelines passing through Pakistan, including the restive province of Balochistan. Balochistan, Pakistan's largest and resource-rich province, has been grappling with a separatist insurgency for decades. The Baloch people accuse the Pakistani government of exploiting their resources while neglecting their development and have been waging an armed struggle for autonomy. The Balochistan Liberation Army, or BLA, one of the main separatist groups, has stepped up attacks on Pakistani security forces and Chinese interests in the region, viewing CPEC as a new form of colonialism. The Afghan-Pakistan tensions have further complicated the security situation in Balochistan. The BLA has been accused of receiving support from Afghan-based groups, and the porous border provides safe havens for Baloch militants. The escalating violence in Balochistan threatens the viability of CPEC, raising concerns in Beijing about the security of its investments and personnel. China, a close ally of Pakistan, has been walking a tightrope, trying to balance its economic interests with the need to maintain stability in the region. Beijing has urged both Kabul and Islamabad to resolve their differences through dialogue and has offered to mediate between the two sides. However, the growing instability in Balochistan and the escalating Afghan-Pakistan tensions pose a serious challenge to China's regional ambitions.